She stood on the dock, phone in hand, finger jabbing the air like she was directing a SWAT team. This eyesore's violating HOA regulations. Remove it now, she shouted. I looked up from my boat, stunned. That eyesore was my Navy patrol. Vessel decommissioned, yes, but a symbol of everything I stood for. She didn't care. Her name was Cheryl, but everyone around here just called her Karen with a clipboard. She strutted like she ran the town, throwing rules at people that didn't exist and inventing fines like she was printing monopoly money. I calmly replied, Ma'am, this is my private dock on my private land, and that's a Navy certified patrol boat. She squinted at me, then barked, Well, it's tagged now. You'll be fined $500 a day starting today. She slapped a bright red sticker across the hull, the kind used for condemned houses. It wasn't even official, just printed paper with a fake HOA logo on her signature. I wanted to laugh, but I knew better. Karen wasn't just annoying, she was dangerous. She had a history of filing complaints that somehow turned into real police reports. Last month, she got a 19-year-old evicted by claiming his skateboard ramp was a drug den. The neighborhood had whispered stories, but now I was in the middle of one. My wife came out with our son, puzzled by the noise. Karen turned to them and said, You should teach your child about respecting rules before CPS gets involved. That was it. That was the moment something snapped inside me, not rage, but focus. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten her. I just stared at that ridiculous fine notice and said, okay, because I knew something Karen didn't. That patrol boat, it wasn't just decoration. It was still registered, maintained, and insured through a veteran preservation program. And more importantly, it was federally protected property under a military maritime heritage clause. The dock, built with my own hands on deeded waterfront, land that wasn't even part of her jurisdiction. She didn't know any of that, but I was going to let her keep digging. 2 days later, I came home from work and saw flashing lights bouncing off the trees. Not police tow trucks, 2 of them, backed right up to the dock. And standing there, arms crossed like she'd just won a war, was Corinne. You were warned, she said smugly. Non-compliance equals enforcement. Asterisk I couldn't believe. The tow crew had actually wrapped thick chains around the patrol boat. One of the guys shrugged at me. We're just following HOA orders, man. I stepped closer. On whose authority? I asked. He pointed at a crumpled form, some nonsense Karen had signed herself. Not a court order, not a city mandate, just her clipboard and arrogance. Asterisk, my son stood at the window watching. My wife whispered, do something. But I didn't stop them. Not yet. Asterisk, they pulled that boat halfway up the dock ramp. Metal screeched. Wood cracked. I saw them damage the whole years of maintenance ruined in seconds. Karen was filming it with her phone like it was some proud documentary. This is what happens when you break community rules, she narrated. Asterisk, that's when I said loud enough for her camera to catch. Do you even know what you've just done? She rolled her eyes. I stopped a violation. You should thank me. I just smiled, because what she didn't know, what the tow guys didn't know, was that the GPS tracker on the boat had already pinned the system I registered with the Department of the Navy. Any movement of the vessel without authorization. It triggers an alert. Asterisk, and Karen had just committed a federal offense on camera. Asterisk, I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I calmly pulled out my phone and made one call to a number I hadn't used in 5 years. Asterisk, hey, Commander Reeves? Yeah. We've got a situation. Someone just attempted to impound a federally protected patrol boat. I've got the footage and witnesses. Asterisk, he paused on the other end. Stay put. We're sending someone. Asterisk, Karen had no idea. She thought she was winning, but she had just stepped on a landmine. The next morning felt calm, almost too calm. Karen's usual routine included pacing the sidewalk with her coffee like a prison warden, but today she wasn't there. Instead, two black SUVs pulled up in front of my house. No sirens, no drama, just quiet authority. A man in a suit stepped out and showed me his badge. Department of Naval Investigative Service. Asterisk. Mr. Hayes, he said. We received your report. Mind if we have a look at the footage? Asterisk, I nodded and led them inside. As they reviewed the security camera angles, Karen tagging the boat, the tow trucks, her smug monologue, one of the agents let out a slow whistle. She really thought she had the power to seize federal property. Asterisk, I said nothing. Just watched as the other agent's expression turned cold. And this boat is registered under the Veterans Maritime Act, correct? He asked. I handed him the documents. And the land? I gave them the property survey maps, clearly marked, outside HOA jurisdiction. Asterisk, they didn't say much. After that, they thanked me, packed their copies of the footage, and said the words I'd been waiting for. We'll handle this. Asterisk, I didn't see Karen until later that afternoon. She was marching toward my house, furious. What did you do? She screamed, her voice cracking. I just got a call from some federal office telling me I'm under investigation. Asterisk, I stayed calm. You tampered with a Navy boat, Karen? That's a felony. Asterisk, she scoffed. Don't act like you're some war hero. This is a neighborhood, not a military base. And that's when I dropped the first twist she never saw coming. I commanded that boat for 6 years in the Pacific. My name's etched on its commissioning plaque. And you just dragged it down a dock like trash. Asterisk, she froze. Her face went pale. That doesn't mean, asterisk. You impersonated an HOA authority, issued fake notices, and trespassed on federal property. And now the Navy is pressing charges, not me, them. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Then she turned and stormed away. But it was too late, asterisk, because just around the corner, those same black SUVs were back, and this time they weren't coming to my house. Karen didn't make it. Halfway down the block, before the agents stepped out and surrounded her, she tried to put on her usual performance, hands waving, voice raised, playing the victim. This is harassment. I'm on the HOA board. I have rights. But they weren't listening. One of them calmly showed her a document. Ms. Cheryl Benson, you are being investigated for impersonating a federal official, tampering with federally protected property, and submitting false citations under a fictitious HOA authority. Asterisk, she blinked. Fictitious? This is a real HOA. Asterisk, he didn't flinch. According to county records, your HROA charter was revoked 2 years ago due to fraud. Your so-called board has no legal standing. Asterisk, she stumbled backward like she'd been slapped. No, that's not possible. I've been running it, asterisk, that's the problem. The agent said flatly. Asterisk, the neighbors started coming out one by one. Phones out, watching as the woman who had tormented them with bogus rules and threats now face real consequences. A few whispered to each other. Some even clapped quietly. Asterisk, Karen was still trying to fight it. You're making a mistake. He parked a warboat in a residential zone. But then the second twist hit her. The lead agent turned to me. Mr. Hayes, thank you for your service. We've confirmed your vessel's protected status, and you'll be fully reimbursed for any damage caused by the unlawful tow. Asterisk, I nodded. But then came the real hammer, asterisk. As for Miss Benson, her actions triggered federal maritime law violations. And due to the unauthorized damage to government-registered property, she's facing a potential civil fine of up to $460,000. That's before the criminal charges, asterisk, Karen gasped. You can't be serious, asterisk, we are, the agent replied calmly. And you'll be hearing from the DOJ. Someone down the street laughed. For the first time ever, Karen wasn't in control. Her face twisted with panic, then rage, then disbelief. "This is all his fault," she screamed, pointing at me. "He set me up." Asterisk, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, Karen, you set yourself up. I just watched." Asterisk, and with that, the agents led her to the SUV, her clipboard still clutched in one hand like it might save her. Asterisk, it wouldn't. Asterisk, asterisk. By evening, the neighborhood was buzzing like never before. Word traveled fast. Karen was gone. No hey emails, no fake fines, no morning walks with that smug coffee cup. People who used to hide behind curtains were now stepping onto their porches, talking, smiling, even laughing for the first time in months. Asterisk Mrs. Thompson, who Karen once threatened over a garden gnome, walked over with cookies and a grin. "Did you really serve on that boat?" she asked. Asterisk, I nodded. "She thought it was just decoration." Asterisk, good. She never respected anything but her own voice. But it wasn't just my neighbors who noticed. The story caught fire online. Someone had filmed the whole arrest from their front lawn and uploaded it. Within hours, the clip hit 1 million views. The title read, "HOA Karen tries to tow a Navy vet's boat, regrets it instantly." Comments flooded in, veterans, patriots, every day. People who were sick of power-tripping HOA tyrants. They all said the same thing. Finally, justice. Then came the unexpected knock on my door. Not feds this time, 2 men in suits, clean-cut, polite. They introduced themselves as representatives from a veterans legal foundation. Asterisk, we saw the footage, one of them said. "And we're offering pro bono representation if you want to sue for damages, property, emotional, or otherwise." Asterisk, I raised an eyebrow. "Lawsuit? Isn't she already ruined?" They exchanged a look. "She's trying to negotiate her way out, claiming she was misled, acting on community interest. There's a small chance she could get off with just fines and probation unless someone pushes for more." Asterisk, I glanced out the window, watching my son toss a ball in the yard, finally free to play without Corinne's threats about noise violations. Asterisk, I'm not doing this for revenge, I said quietly. But if there's a chance she walks away and does this to someone else, asterisk, they nodded. Say no more. I signed the papers, and that's when I realized this wasn't just about a boat, asterisk. It was about making sure people like her never felt untouchable again. A few weeks later, the court hearing began. Small courtroom, quiet town. But the case had drawn national attention. Reporters lined the hallway, whispering into microphones, trying to catch a glimpse of the HOA Karen who tried to tow a war hero's boat. I walked in wearing my navy dress blues, not for show, but for principle. I hadn't worn them in years. But today, they mattered. Asterisk Karen sat on the other side, looking like a shadow of her former self. No clipboard, no power walk. Just a pale, shaky woman with a trembling lower lip. Her lawyer kept whispering in her ear, probably urging her to settle. But I could tell she still didn't believe she had done anything wrong. Entitlement doesn't vanish that easily. Asterisk, the judge, a sharp-eyed woman with a military family background, didn't waste time. Ms. Benson, you are charged with impersonating an official, trespassing, harassment, and destruction of federally protected property. Do you understand the charges? Asterisk, Karen mumbled. I was only trying to keep the community in order. Asterisk, that's when my attorney stood. Calmly, he presented the evidence videos, the fake notices, the forged HOA letters, and expert testimony confirming the boat's protected status. He even played the recording of Karen threatening CPS against my family. Asterisk. The courtroom was dead silent. Asterisk. Then he looked at the judge and said, Your Honor, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was targeted harassment against a military veteran, fueled by unchecked power and personal bias. Asterisk Karen's attorney tried to fight back. She was confused about jurisdiction. She thought she had legal backing. Asterisk, the judge didn't even blink. Ignorance isn't a defense when you're damaging someone's property and reputation. Then came the moment I didn't expect. The judge turned to me. Mr. Hayes, is there anything you wish to say before sentencing? Asterisk, I looked at Karen, this woman who tried to humiliate me, scare my family, destroy something I'd risked my life on. Asterisk, I simply said, I didn't fight overseas to come home and be bullied on my own land. This wasn't about a boat. It was about respect for people, for freedom, for what's right. You could hear a pin drop. Karen dropped her gaze to the floor. Asterisk, the judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. That's all I needed to hear. Asterisk, the final blow came swift and clean. Asterisk, the judge leaned forward, voice firm. Ms. Benson, you are hereby sentenced to 6 months of house arrest, 300 hours of community service at a veterans center, and ordered to pay $460,000 in fines and damages. To Mr. Hayes and the Department of the Navy. She paused. Let this serve as a reminder authority is not self-appointed, and disrespecting those who serve this country comes with consequences. Asterisk Karen's mouth fell open. Her lawyer looked like he'd been punched. Asterisk, she tried to speak, but the judge cut her off. You've said enough. Asterisk, as I stepped out of the courtroom, the cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but I didn't stop. I wasn't there for fame, I was there for closure. Asterisk, back home, things were different. Neighbors who once kept their heads down now greeted each other like friends. The silent majority wasn't silent anymore. Kids played freely. Flags flew. A little higher, and my son, he started telling his friends. My dad stood up to the Karen who thought she was the law. Asterisk, weeks later, a letter came in the mail. From Karen. Asterisk, it was handwritten, shaky, uneven script. I didn't understand what I was doing. I lost everything, my job, my position, my name. But maybe I deserved it. I'm sorry. Asterisk, I read it once. Then again, I didn't reply, because sometimes silence is the most powerful answer. Asterisk. But I did pin something else to my wall right next to the framed flag from my final Navy tour. A still photo from that viral video, Karen being walked to the SUV, clipboard dangling, mouth open in chalk, asterisk, and underneath it, I wrote one line, asterisk. That piece didn't just stay on our street, it rippled out like waves from the stern of my old patrol boat. Asterisk veterans groups started reaching out, sharing similar stories. Emails flooded in. Messages from across the country. Asterisk. My HOA fined me for flying my service flag. Asterisk. They threatened my disabled husband over a ramp we installed. Asterisk. We thought we were alone until we saw what you did. Asterisk. I never wanted to be a symbol. I was just protecting my family. But somehow, standing up to Karen had become more than a neighborhood scuffle. It became a movement. Asterisk local news did a follow-up. They asked me what I'd say to others dealing with people like her. I kept it simple. Know your rights. Stand your ground. And never let someone with fake power make you feel small on your own land. Asterisk, a few months later, the mayor called. Told me the city was launching a new review board, one that would check every HOA's legal authority before they were allowed to enforce anything. They named it the Veterans Fair Housing and Property Committee. He asked if I'd be a founding member. I said yes, because now, when someone like Karen tries to bully a veteran, a single mom, or an immigrant family into silence, there's a line they can't cross anymore, not just because of the law, But because one Karen got too bold and got caught trying to tow a boat that didn't just carry steel, it carried stories, sacrifice, and a whole lot of justice. Asterisk in that boat still sits at my dock, clean, untouched, and completely untouchable.